पारिजाताय तोत्रवेत्रैकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुहे नमः.
Namaskar everybody. எல்லாரும் நல்லா இருக்கிறீங்களா? Thanks for joining this program. நம்ம எல்லாருக்குமே பகவத்கீதாங்கிற பேர் ரொம்ப நல்லா தெரியும். ஆனா பகவத்கீதாக்குள்ள என்ன சொல்லி இருக்குன்னு சொல்லி அப்படி இப்படி கேள்வியில அறக்குறையா தெரியும். Aim of this program is to take the beginners through baby steps to understand பகவத்கீதால சொல்லி இருக்கிற பாயிண்ட்ஸ், மெயின் பாயிண்ட்ஸ் எளிய முறையில mix of Tamil and English so that language is not a barrier to understand, to know about this brilliant treasure that we have amongst us, Bhagavad Gita. I'm Group Captain Gauri Shankar, a postgraduate engineer. I worked in the Indian Air Force. உங்கள சில பேருக்கு என்னைய தெரிஞ்சிருக்கலாம் if you had been part of the Treasures from Tirukkural program. நான் சான்ஸ்கிரிட் பல வருஷம் படிச்சிருக்கிறேன், எக்ஸாம்ஸும் பாஸ் பண்ணியிருக்கிறேன். மோர் இம்பார்ட்டன்ட்லி பகவத்கீதா உபனிஷத் கேம்ப்ஸ் நிறைய அட்டென்ட் பண்ணியிருக்கிறேன். அண்ட் ஐ ஹாவ் அ லாட் ஆஃப் லவ் ஃபார் பகவத்கீதா அண்ட் இம்மன்ஸ் அன்பு ஃபார் திருக்குறள். அண்ட் ரெண்டுத்துக்கும் காமனா தேர் ஆர் சோ மெனி பாயிண்ட்ஸ் யூ வில் see as we go by. I wish to place on record my sincere appreciation and thanks to Pariha, the channel which has been providing administrative support for the Treasures from Tirukkural program, as well as this program, Bhagavad Gita for Beginners. My thanks are also due to my classmate and dear friend Seshambal and to young Prabha for assisting me with melodious chants. Thank you all. Whenever we want to undertake any new task, the obvious first question that will come is, why do this? So it's no different. நீங்க கேட்கலனாலும் your friends, your neighbors, your relatives will ask. Therefore, we should know the answer. Why study Bhagavad Gita? A simple answer could be Bhagavad Gita, which is part of the epic Mahabharata, which is more than 5,000 years old, but relevant even today, is so popular in the world that it's been translated to many languages. If the people who do not know the Indian culture or the Indian language find there is so much wisdom in this treatise, should we not, as Indians, try to understand the nuances contained in this brilliant treasure? That is the reason why we study Bhagavad Gita. When it comes to new learning, நம்ம எல்லாத்துக்கும் மனசுல ஒரு பயம் இருக்கும். ஐயோ நிறைய எஃபர்ட் போடணுமா, நம்மால இது முடியுமா சொல்லி. There is a beautiful shloka which explains எவ்வளவு எஃபர்ட் நம்ம கிட்ட போடணும், எவ்வளவு ரெஸ்பான்சிபிலிட்டி எங்கிருந்து நமக்கு வருது கான்ட்ரிபியூஷன். இந்த ஸ்லோகத்தை பார்க்கலாம். இட்ஸ் a beautiful ஸ்லோகா. ஆச்சாரியாத் பாதம் ஆதத்தே பாதம் சிஷ்யஸ்வமேதயா பாதம் ச பிரம்மச்சாரிபியः பாதம் கால கிரமேண ச. It explains for one's learning who are all the contributories. பாதம்ங்கிறது 1/4, 25%. இதுல மீனிங் பார்க்கலாம். இது 4 பார்ட்ஸா எடுத்துக்கலாம். The first one, ஆச்சாரியா. ஆச்சாரியான்னு குரு. It says 25% of one's learning comes from the teacher. So one padam, 125% from acharya. Then the third one, padam sa brahmacharibhyaha. Sa brahmacharibhyaha, no, the co-students, peers. So a quarter through interaction with co-students. When you discuss what you have learned with the other person, either a neighbor or a relative or somebody who is, that's a way. That's why they encourage combined study in the schools and colleges because you learn from each one's learning. So 25% comes from the teacher, 25% comes from the co-students. And the last one, fourth one is Padam Kala Kramenacha. That is 1/4 from one's experiences in life. They say there are two aspects, Jnana and Vijnana. One is a theoretical knowledge, second is a practical knowledge. Without practical knowledge, knowledge is never complete. So it says 25% comes from one's experiences in life. Many of you may already have life experiences, in which case that 25% is taken care for you already. And for the younger people, you still have got a lot of life ahead of you. You will learn. There is nothing to compensate for the worldly experiences. Take it from me. So 25% the teacher takes care. So I take the burden of teaching you 25% of the things to be known. And the other 25% you will get from discussing with your co-students, with your peers. And life is going to teach you 25%. So which means the second one, Padam Sishya Swamedeya, only 1/4 from students' own effort. Only 25% is the effort that you have to put for your learning. But then the best part is, even in the 25%, you don't have to do any writing here. I'm going to show everything on the slide here. All you have to do is sit alert and listen. And then later on, refer to the book, discuss with your friends, and then relate it to the life's experiences. Bus, you've already done the learning. It's as simple. It goes without saying that Bhagavad Gita offers valuable lessons in life for adults and children alike. Let's outline a few of them. One, Bhagavad Gita clarifies that everyone has a right to question everything, not question many things, right to question everything. In fact, the whole of Bhagavad Gita is in the form of a question by Arjuna and answer or clarification by Lord Krishna. And Arjuna asked so many types of questions, so many variations of questions to Lord Krishna, and the ultimate aim is to find the truth, to realize oneself the truth. So Bhagavad Gita encourages questioning, a probing mind. Bhagavad Gita also puts emphasis on spirituality, that is, awareness of self. If there is one place where we have a lot of ignorance about, is about ourselves. Who are we? What are we? In fact, they say the question, who am I, is the most difficult question to answer. And the machines that come along, they come with an operating manual for us to read and understand. This brilliant human body, along with the mind and the brain and other things, emotions and memory and all things, this is the only one which does not come with an operating manual. We learn about ourselves through trial and error. Will it not be wonderful if there is a manual which tells us a way to find out who we are? That's what Bhagavad Gita aims to do. And Bhagavad Gita preaches the way to control the mind is the most important part in one's life, because the senses are controlled by the mind. Most of the problems in life are because of the sense organs seeking sense pleasures. Mind controls the sense organs. Therefore, anyone who controls the mind, who learns to control the mind, can control anything else in the world. That's what the point that comes out clearly during the study of Bhagavad Gita. And ability to deal with different situations, that's taught through examples as we go by. Life is not a smooth sail. It has got its own ups and downs. And running away from problem or wishful thinking for it to go away will never help. So the only solution is ability to deal with different situations and to develop an equanimity of mind. That's what Bhagavad Gita brings about brilliantly. And Bhagavad Gita tells us life is full of battles. In fact, the Bhagavad Gita arose in the battlefield, thick of battlefield, when Arjuna was in a deluded mind. And this is a metaphor for us in life. Our life is full of battles. We fight internal battles, outside battles, the battles of thoughts, the minds, the words, and physical battles. So Bhagavad Gita preaches us stay calm. This, in fact, is very, very relevant today for the turmoil that is around. If one can stay calm, one learns to stay calm, then that is probably the best one can achieve in life. So Bhagavad Gita tells us how. And there are more things we will learn one by one as we go by. While Bhagavad Gita, part of Mahabharata, was written more than 5,000 years ago in Sanskrit by Vedavyasa in poetic form, while Tirukkural, which came about 2000 years ago in South India, written again in poetic form by Tiruvallur, despite the diversity in the time and the space, ரெண்டுத்துக்கும் நிறைய காமனா இருக்குதுன்னு சொல்லி நான் சொன்னேன். ஒரு கிளிம்ஸ் அதுல பார்க்கலாம். ரெண்டுலயும் காமனா இருக்கிறதுக்கு மெயின் ரீசன் both these aim towards establishing dharma and preaching dharmic ways of life. உலகத்துல மனுஷன் நல்லபடியா வாழறதுக்கு தர்ம வழியில நடக்கணும்னு சொல்லி ரெண்டும் சொல்றதுனால ரெண்டுத்துக்கும் காமனா இருக்கு. அதுல சிலது பார்க்கலாம். நான் ப்ளூல போட்டிருக்கிறது பாயிண்ட் ஃப்ரம் பகவத் கீதா. அதே வேற கலர்ல பிராக்கெட்ல போட்டிருக்கிறது திருக்குறள்ல இருக்கிற தனி அதிகாரம். எதுவும் நிரந்தரம் இல்லை. Nothing is permanent. That's one of the messages from Bhagavad Gita. Tirukkural has got nilayamai, impermanence, as the topic for an adhikaram or a chapter. Bhagavad Gita says, ஆசையை வெல்லுங்கள், win over the lust or desire, because அதுதான் முக்கியமான ப்ராப்ளத்துக்கெல்லாம் காரணம் சொல்லுது. திருக்குறள்ல அவ அறுத்தல் சொல்லி ஒரு தனி அதிகாரமே இருக்கு. இது the first division of திருக்குறள், அறத்துப்பால் அதுல வருது. இன்னொன்னு சினமுங்களை வஞ்சிக்கும். சினம்னா கோபம். Bhagavad Gita says, if you give way for anger, it will betray you. Tiruvallur, வெகுளாமை, that is not getting angry, தனி அதிகாரமே வச்சிருக்காரு, again in அறத்துப்பால். Bhagavad Gita says, சமநிலை தன்மை வேண்டும், that is not following the extremes in exercise or food or sleep or but mid path. Tiruvallur, நடுவு நிலைமை, that is again mid path, meaning mid path, தனி அதிகாரம் வச்சிருக்காரு. இது வந்து just the few. நம்ம போயிட்டு இருக்கும்போது wherever apt and relevant, நான் வந்து திருக்குறளோடு எங்க வந்திருக்குன்னு சொல்லி just for understanding, appreciating நான் சொல்லிட்டு இருப்பேன். மேல போகலாம். Before we get into the study of Bhagavad Gita proper, it may be useful to understand the background under which Bhagavad Gita came up. Gita Upadesh, as it's called, it's a song, divine song by Lord Krishna to Arjuna in the battlefield. Arjuna symbolically represents all in the humanity, and this is a message to all of us in our internal conflict. So, coming back to the point, when the Pandavas were in exile, Lord Krishna was sent as an emissary to Duryodhana to bargain peace, to give at least 5 villages for the Pandavas. But Duryodhana refused to yield even that. Then the Pandavas had no choice except to go in for a war. And we must remember that the Pandavas were out of power for more than a decade. And then to mobilize an army to stand up to the huge army of Duryodhana, it was not a simple task. But the Pandavas still managed because they had a lot of past reputation as dharmic people. And if you look at it, Pandavas were just 5 of them, while the Kauravas were 100. The Pandavas represented the things righteous, while the Kauravas for things evil. As is common practice, the good are few, while the evil are many. But in the end game, the good always prevails over the evil. Right. When the peace talks did not yield result, the Pandavas had no choice except to go for a war. And in the battlefield, Lord Krishna had offered to be the charioteer for Arjuna. Lord Krishna's condition was he will not take up arms, he will not fight a war. His army went to the Kauravas side to assist them, while Lord Krishna stayed with the Pandavas and agreed to be the charioteer for Arjuna. So Arjuna wanted to survey the armies on both the sides as a general of the Pandavas army. So Lord Krishna, in his mischievous wisdom, he took the chariot and placed it right in front of Bhishma and Dronacharya. Arjuna had a lot of respect for the two of them, especially because they were the grandsire and the guru, respectively. So, looking at them, Arjuna started thinking, how could he kill these people and live in the glory? So, that single thought put Arjuna into a confusion. So, Arjuna got into a mood of depression. And depression ridden, Arjuna decides not to fight. He tells Lord Krishna that he would rather go and beg outside to sustain himself in life than fight his grandsire or the guru and soak in their blood and to enjoy the kingdom. It's a serious matter. Army general in the thick of the battlefield saying that he is depressed and he will not fight. Imagine the scenario. And Lord Krishna was to be only a subordinate for Arjuna as a charioteer. And he was not to take arms. And it's a very precarious situation. In the situation, Lord Krishna through the brilliance of communication, he talks to Arjuna and gets Arjuna out of the depression. And communication சொல்றதுன்னா பகவத்கீதால நிறைய பாயிண்ட்ஸ் வரும். Essence of communication. One of the things is பகவத்கீதால 18 சாப்டர் இருக்கு, 18 chapters. Out of that, the very first chapter, Lord Krishna is silent throughout. That is, he allows Arjuna to vent out his chest. Arjuna laments and continues to lament, and chapter 1 also describes the two sides of the army. But then more importantly, Arjuna lets out all his steam. That's one of the strong points in communication. Allow the other side to say that, and Lord Krishna bought himself time to assess the situation and to go to the root cause of the problem before he delivered his preachings to Arjuna. And Krishna, after Arjuna's lamenting, he utters just 2 verses which were enough to trigger Arjuna's mind, and Arjuna comes out with the true problem, what has been troubling his mind. Because before that, Arjuna has been saying that in the war, if the people are killed, if the men are killed, fathers are killed, husbands are killed, the society will suffer, dharma will go down in the society, blah blah, all that he says. And when Krishna utters 2 verses to trigger Arjuna's thoughts, Arjuna then comes out to say how can he kill those people who he respects the most in his life. That is how Bhagavad Gita starts up. And it's a beautiful piece where lots of essences of life are talked about. We will enjoy going through each of them in samples. So for the convenience, I have picked up few shlokas from every chapter, though chapter 2 by itself is a brilliant single window to expose what is contained in Bhagavad Gita. But then when we go through all the chapters, we will also get to know which are all the chapters, what is contained in each of them, at least a sample of that, for us to get a whole picture of what is inside Bhagavad Gita. Let's go further. There are some aside points. I choose to call them tidbits. These are some of the trivial details, but then they make interesting point to note. Bhagavad Gita and its parent text Mahabharata, they are all written as poetic verses, and they are majorly in Anushtup Chanda meter, which has 2 lines and a total of 32 syllables and divided into 4 quarters. So each quarter having 8 syllables. And many of you may be aware, writing a poetry is much more difficult than writing a prose because of the stringent conditions attached to writing a poetry. Under these circumstances, the parent text Mahabharata has got 1 lakh verses in poetic form. Mahabharata, 1 lakh verses consisting of 1.8 million words, and these were written by Rishi Vedavyasa in Sanskrit. So as compared to Mahabharata's 1 lakh verses or shlokas, Ramayana has got 24,000 verses, again in poetic form, just 1/4 the size of Mahabharata. Bhagavad Gita, the text we are now interested in studying, Bhagavad Gita has got 700 verses and divided into 18 chapters. In Bhagavad Gita, the very first shloka is by the king Dhritarashtra, the father of the Kauravas. He speaks the first verse asking his charioteer Sanjaya to explain to him what is happening in the battlefield. And Sanjaya, with the powers bestowed upon him for seeing the happenings in the battlefield, he narrates to King Dhritarashtra the happenings in the battlefield. That's how it goes. Arjuna, in total, out of the 700 verses, Arjuna speaks 84 verses, 12% of the total 700. And interestingly, 22 of these verses, Arjuna speaks in the very first chapter where he laments on various issues. And rest of the verses are spent in Arjuna asking various questions to Lord Krishna during the Upadesh. And Lord Krishna spoke 572 or 82%. So over 80% of the verses are due to Lord Krishna. So the Upadesh forms the major portion of it, while Sanjaya, the charioteer who narrates things to details to King Dhritarashtra and who also is an enabler when there is a scene change of the mood change of Arjuna from one to another, because Arjuna has to come out of the deep depression he was in. So Sanjaya speaks 41 verses, approximately 6%. So Arjuna speaks 12% of the verses, Sanjaya 6%, while Lord Krishna speaks over 80%. King Dhritarashtra speaks just one verse. And Pandava army had 15 lakh warriors. Despite the hardship, Pandavas managed to mobilize an army of 15 lakh warriors. But then Kaurava army had 24 lakh warriors, almost 50% more. When the right fights the evil, when the right fights on ideology, the strength of the enemy is no concern. That's a point that is proven from here. Let's go further. So இது வரைக்கும் first part of the introductionல we saw a reason why we should study Bhagavad Gita instead of just the superficial information. And we also saw a glimpse of some valuable life lessons. And Bhagavad Gitaக்கும் திருக்குறளுக்கும் நடுவில் இருக்கிற commonality. Just a few samples we saw. And also the events that led to the happening of Bhagavad Gita. And I also shared some trivial details which I chose to call as tidbits with you. So in the second and concluding part of the introduction, next week, I will be talking about the various chapters in Bhagavad Gita. I will also explain the methodology that's planned for the sessions. And I'll also give you a demo of the content of the sessions. Are you okay? Let me assure you that all the sessions will be easy and interesting to follow. Please come with an open mind and a focused mind. Each session will be for a duration approximately between 20 and 30 minutes. See you next week. Take care. Namaskar, everybody.
ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः।